Hi, Ася here. Welcome to my pillow fort. Among many other things, our homes became venues for site-specific theater while under quarantine, and I did a little bit of a stage design here for My Home as a Temple. This experience is one of the 4 experiences from the series What Do You Need? By LA-based immersive theater company, capital W. My Home as a Temple is performed and created by Lauren Ludwig, and it is a ritual personalized for each participant based on their emotional needs and physical spaces where they're quarantining their homes. While I was filling out a questionnaire prior to the experience, I came up with an idea to build a pillow fort, which wasn't a requirement. This is just something I wanted to do for a while. Luckily, Lauren supported my creativity, and she was very attentive to me both during our pre-show email communication and on the call when we did the experience. During nearly an hour-long ritual, which consisted of manipulating objects which were prepared in advance, automatic writing, and meditation, I started to feel much more grounded, which was my inquiry from the beginning. What surprised me the most was the casual conversational tone of it and intuitive trust in Lauren's expertise. There was nothing explicitly theatrical about it, nothing weird or exotic, nothing to make me feel uneasy. The highly personalized approach, as well as the combination of performative and healing practices, intrigued me greatly. So I wanted to meet with Lauren Ludwig and Monica Miklas of Capital W to talk about their project.
You ladies can kind of just give a brief summary of what you need as a entire project, and what kind of shows do you have there, and how did it all start?
Well, it is a series of 4 different experiences, each one crafted by a different writer who also is the main facilitator or performer in the piece. And they are inspired by a style of work that we've done for a long time, which is intimate, one-on-one, immersive work. But unlike our earlier shows, we very specifically had these be not narratively driven. Instead, they have an arc, I would say, as experiences, but they're much more about being in the present moment, in the current state of the world, with wherever the audience member is that day, and crafting a container that the audience member can process through whatever's coming up for them in this often traumatic situation. So we're using our skills as immersive makers to create healthy spaces for things to be metabolized.
Lauren and I both have a piece within the series, and there are 2 others. Marion is a frequent collaborator of ours. She wrote the show Drum, which we did in 2016. And she is doing this really amazing curated playlist, like a personally curated playlist for people. And then she gets on Zoom with you and basically facilitates a listening session for you, during which you're encouraged to move or dance as you feel called to. Mason Flink is someone I've known a very, very long time, and is a writer, primarily a television writer. He's doing a walk called Look, which is you're on the phone with him, taking a walk through your neighborhood, and he invites you to connect with the life in your neighborhood in a new way. My Home is a Temple, which is a ritual for you and with you. Our homes have taken on a lot of extra weight in this time when we are staying in them. And Lauren can speak more to the purpose of that piece, but as I see it, it is to help either lighten that load or consider it or consider a part of your home in a new way.
And I would say also to connect to sort of a collective relationship to spiritual energy that a lot of people I know got from doing immersive theater. Not that religious immersive theater is explicitly religious, it's sort of separating the idea of religion from the idea of a spiritual kind of oneness that you might sense when you're in a group that we now have all lost group access to in a lot of cases.
Finally, my piece is called Dive, and it is a radical nature meditation that's written for each participant. It's designed to be read to them while they're in the bath, taking a bath. And so I help them create a ritual bath and then read to them while they do.
The only reason I didn't subscribe to your experience, Monica, is that I don't have access to a bathtub.
We have a workaround. If we more tickets, and we can adapt it for you.
Ooh, good to know. Good to know.
Yeah.
Thank you. Your previous work, you said you like aim for intimate audience and close kind of proximity and connection. But were you always doing one-on-ones?
We have done 1-on-1 and 12-on-1, like I mentioned. 12 is a number that feels like still a very small group to us. So you're still creating an intimate connection between all the different audience members, even in a group that size. I think any group up to 20 would feel very on brand to us to start. But, as we evolve as a company, I think we're also interested in this question of how do you keep intimacy as you do bigger scale audience work.
But what made you choose specifically a one-on-one format for your what do you need?
Yeah. I'm acknowledging also that Monica seems like the internet just
Yeah.
got
Oh,
I hope she comes back. I have found on Zoom that more than one person is such a different experience on Zoom. I've found one-on-one to be like you can create an intimacy that's close to real life. For anything bigger, any kind of group thing, it's much harder to hold it all and to hold the group spirit and to connect to that. Right now, we're in a rehearsal process for a new project, and that has 6 people in it at a time. And that's kind of my maximum I'm learning, where I can actually key into everybody deeply. But when you're meeting a stranger and you're trying to create intimacy very quickly, like we are in these pieces, one-on-one's really the best for that. And we really believe deeply in creating work that really serves the need of the individual audience members. We love being able to do that. And so in this time, that just felt so particularly important. So that's how we ended up.
And what made you choose to get rid of the narrative and sort of roles and all of that, attributes of theater?
We have been playing with that on and off in different ways throughout our work. We've had some work we've done deeply narrative. One of our most ambitious projects called Rochester 1996 was very much a story with characters and a plot. You were following a queer teenage girl who is a pastor's daughter, and you're following her on a Sunday in her life, and like a lot of big reveals happen and big turns in the story, and that was very much you went inside of a narrative. But some of her earlier work, Monica mentioned a piece called And the Drum, which was an adaptation of a book of poetry, In the Poet's House. That piece, the people were always playing themselves. And we've done that a few times where people's kind of characters are really just sort of an alternative universe version of themselves. And it allows the actors to bring in their real world experience very explicitly into the final piece. So we've done some experimenting with that. And that piece also had not a story, but it had a beginning and middle and end energetically. And we saw that that really worked and felt like theater for us. So having done the kind of whole spectrum in the past, it felt very clear that right now people needed to connect honestly and authentically, which means the performers can't be hiding or acting like there's somebody they're not. So that felt important. And also we found that our story brains were short-circuiting a lot at the beginning of the quarantine. It felt impossible to tell a story about now because now was so profoundly right now and unfolding in front of us. And so we wanted to release the need to bring a contemporary story into it. I think that in Mason's piece, he tells stories about his own past and about other plagues, other quarantines. That felt okay. That feels okay.
There is no narrative or not much of it, but there is still a kind of emotional arc that you go through. There is a moment of introduction of the meeting, and then the journey that you take together, the transformation, and then there is a cathartic moment of the end. And I wonder which of your personal expertise and experiences in your other lives, careers, helped you to facilitate that emotional journey?
We all four have different backgrounds as facilitators of emotional and energetic transformation. We have a range of skill sets that we're each bringing. You know, I've worked as a facilitator of groups, and groups often that are using emotion as like a very powerful substance in the room for a long time, in terms of being a director that runs rehearsal rooms, and also being a mentor and a coach for artists one-on-one in other parts of my life, a teacher. So I'm very used to holding space for someone to have feelings, and just had to do that a lot over the years, and learned a lot of skills around that, both through going to therapy in my own life, or through taking leadership coaching and leadership training, taking on learning more about that, being mentored in that space. So that's just my particular skill set. The other three facilitators each have their own versions of that kind of history. So we all crafted an experience that we felt we could safely, responsibly, and consistently facilitate in a way that would energize but not drain us, in a way that would allow for that transformation you're talking about. So it's very personal to the facilitator.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would say that for me, I've had a long interest and a fair amount of academic training, you will, in religion and religious studies. I went to an Episcopal school when I was a kid, and that was very, actually one of the most, it actually had an incredibly diverse student body in terms of the religious background of the students, despite the fact that it was an Episcopal school. From there, in college, I took religious studies classes, and as an adult, continued to sort of pursue my interests in religion and how the different people of the world worship and how fringe movements happen. Anyway, it's something that really fascinates me. And I think through doing that, I've been exposed to a lot of different traditions, and that certainly informs my understanding of what a ritual is, how it's constructed, what it can do, and how they have arcs. There's, so I definitely have a sort of an academic angle in.
Cat wants to get out. Sorry.
I love how many fun interruptions we've had during this.
Yeah, this is like
It's classic quarantine Zooming.
Classic.
yeah.
Oh, and there's a plane. It's all happening.
Yeah. Speaking of the medium and technical difficulties, have you encountered any problems? Because I know Lauren runs her experience through Zoom, but about you, Monica? Do you also use Zoom?
I do, and I haven't even told Lauren this yet. I had my first total technical failure on Sunday. It was a real bummer. It was a real bummer.
I'm curious.
Exactly what just happened in this Zoom. My internet just started to get spotty, and there was nothing else going on in the house. Because Dave, my partner, plays live music during my experience. So he's in the room with me. And he all of a sudden looks up, and I look at the screen and it's circling. And we'd been kicked off. And I was like, no. And it was during the middle of the meditation.
Did you get a response from that person?
I tried to get back on, couldn't get back on. And so I emailed him and said, well, because we've been talking about all the ups and downs of quarantine. I said, well, the ups and downs have struck again. I'm so sorry this happened. And I offered either to reschedule or to record the meditation for him. And he wants to do the recording. So I'm going to record it the next time we do a session and send it to him.
Nice.
That's nice.
It's great that you have the workarounds. But do you feel that recording and live session are different?
Yes.
Yeah.
Very much so. Yeah, I think that Monica's, ends with a recording in either case, because hers has become such an auditory experience, and there's she's doing this lovely performance, and her partner is creating this beautiful live music. So we realized early on it would be really meaningful for people to have the recording of it after, and then they can play it again if they want. But there is something about the fact that when it was first recorded, she was listening to the person it was written for. I think that that's just invaluable. I could never do mine recorded. It's entirely based on, I'm preparing up to a certain point, but a lot of my decisions on how to run the ritual happen out of the conversation at the top of the meeting on the ritual day. So the ritual is a combination of planning and improvisation. So it has to happen live. I know Mason's is very similar with the walk. I think Martha's dance experience is the closest to a sense of being, pre-recorded.
Yeah, that one, I think, I mean, but that said, Martha does a live, like kind of a warm up with you where she's guiding you through. So I think there is something energetically different to knowing that someone is taking the time to spend this time with you.
Yes.
There's something pretty powerful about that. That's like they're not scaling up. Their next 45 minutes is just for you.
Yes. And I think that's why it's theater.
What Do You Need feels like not entirely a performance or immersive theater as we used to think about it. When I did Your Home is a Temple, I felt like I've been on a therapist session, or I don't know, like just talking to a friend, and it was strange and new. As an immersive theater audience member, it felt different.
Yeah, that's very, very conscious. Over the course of our work, we have become more and more interested in work that blurs and lives at the intersection of theater, spirituality, and therapy or other healing practices. And I think that when I think about theater, the dominant tool is story or character, right? Like that is what that gives us as a gift. And so I think that, but that said, like people have been blurring that and throwing that away for many, many years in theater, right? So when I think about this piece in our work, it's like some of the principles of story, like we said, in terms of arc, and in terms of like onboarding people responsibly, opening them up, and then helping them integrate what's come up in a responsible way. That's all like being utilized, but this, in terms of the spectrum, is much more overtly over on the spirituality or therapy end of what we do, with lighter on the theater techniques, though definitely still using them, as Monica said. You know, like what do people see when they're looking at the Zoom composition, things like literally performance things. Like everybody got a development process. Everybody got notes from me and from Monica, like helping craft. Are you communicating clearly? Like, does it feel authentic? Where like we still treated it like performance. So I would say that like that blurring is very intentional, and it's something we want to keep exploring in our work, even when we go back to something more narratively driven. It's still we're always thinking about that.
Yeah, this is a question that relates to, I think, some really interesting areas for research and exploration in immersive theater, and that I would really love to see people collaborating with professionals from other disciplines in, particularly around therapy and healing arts, and how there's something so powerful happening in the brain when we do this type of work, and it is related. That there's this big Venn diagram of all these different ideas, and we're definitely trying to play in the middle of it.
I imagine people come with all kinds of state of minds when they come to the performance. How do you deal with it, with the emotional overload, and how do you take care of yourselves?
Great question. Yeah, we've been around the bend on this a few times now. Our first show that really like moved into a space where a lot of stuff was coming up for folks probably was our third show, Red Flags.
Mhm.
which is our one-on-one bad first date experience, which we actually just did a virtual adaptation of for this time as well. And so that is out there in the world. Very different. That is using narrative and character as a way to process what's going on right now. So anyway, that show was the first time where we started to have audience members bring up very, very personal things. And we had to develop a set of techniques over the years to train the actors for that, so that they could be safe to the audience and safe with themselves. I have not had anybody show up in a state where I was concerned, but if that line was crossed, I feel very clear about how to gently like make suggestions for other places they might look for help. Like, we're not here to solve everybody's problems at once, and I don't think anybody's asking us to. It's all felt very safe and very healthy so far, in terms of people are all full right now, but emotions aren't bad. So coming and being emotional is okay.
Yeah.
And there's been space in this piece for some of that to get discharged. And then I'm very much encouraging folks afterwards to, if they want to keep chatting with me, they can reach out over email. And I've had one or two people just kind of give me a bit of an update. You did actually, like, here's what happened to me later, which is very cool and rewarding to hear. And also I'm really encouraging people to rest and allow sort of unconscious integration to happen, that they don't need to go feel solved or like it's all fixed, or that they can kind of just let the body and nature keep taking its course. So, yeah.
Yeah, totally. I draw on a lot of the meditation practice that I've experienced and kind of developed in myself over the years, in that really coming back to the present moment, and that the present moment just is. We don't need to have a value judgment about it. It's just what's happening, and it's okay to just be in it for a while. And I have to actively tell myself that as well. The quarantine has been pretty difficult for my mental health, and I've definitely had some swells of anxiety, some of which are related to performing this piece, and I've had to really double down on my own self-care and kind of ride that whole roller coaster of what that needs to be day to day.
I see. So we're still at the point where we don't know how they're going to unfold for us as humanity, and for theater and immersive theater in particular. But I wonder if there are any kind of inspirational moments, discoveries, or anything that you learned during this experience that you would like to continue exploring, or you want to use more in your work in the future?
So my other work outside of capital W is also in events, in working in events at a museum and consulting on galas and things like that, all of which are not going to happen for a while. And I'm starting to think more seriously about about performing, and how can the things I'm learning by creating this experience for other people, how can I apply those to other kind of career pathways, to be honest, which is exciting, and also it's all very scary.
I have for a long time wanted to have more experiences that utilize a range of writers and facilitators in them. I've written and directed most of my own work, and a lot of all of Capital W's work so far. But as we do more and more expansive work, and work that is more ambitious in terms of creating containers to metabolize different personal and collective trauma and different stories, the things that, like, trying to make art that genuinely creates change and creates a roadmap for change. As we do that, I need more people's intelligences. I'm really curious about getting more people's kind of collective wisdom into the room. And so what do you need was a template for a very fast version of a process of how to do that. Mm-hmm. It's like calling on 4 people. I'm one of them. There's these 3 other really gifted writers and performers who have these wonderful backgrounds and they're bringing a lot. They all have a strong point of view. And how can I create a space and help hold a space for everybody to bring their full self and try to get their vision out? It feels like the nexus of my writing work and my directing work and the sort of artistic mentoring and coaching I've done over the years of giving artists space to do their work. So as we do bigger and bigger projects, I think that's going to be more and more relevant. So I'm curious about doing that.
There are days when my life feels as flimsy as a pillow fort. But usually talking to a friend or going to a digital theater show with a bunch of strangers cheers me up. I think the desire to connect was the reason why I was drawn to interactive theater specifically from the beginning of the pandemic. And ultimately, this is the reason why I started this vlog. So let's connect. I am on Facebook and Instagram at Asya Gorovitz. Thank you to Monica and Lauren for joining me. Go ahead to their website to sign up for the experiences of What Do You Need, and check out other projects by them. They're really cool. Take care of yourself, and let's be in touch.